Hello, Orange Forest Focus. As we meet a fan of Nottingham Forest sister club Olympiacos to find out more about the Conference League, how fans view the Reds, and Evangelos Marinakis' involvement. And we'll do some transfer chat with Ari from the Thrylos 7 International podcast. Ari, good to see you again. I've been on your podcast and really enjoyed it. Good to have you on ours. How are you doing today?
Matt, thank you so much for having me. I love talking football. I love talking Olympiacos. There's a lot for us to chat about, and it's a pretty good day for Olympiacos. We're double winners. Had a decent season in Europe with the Europa League, so there's nothing for us to complain about. We're really excited for the summer.
Right. Quite a few things on the agenda, as mentioned. I thought we'd start with the Conference League, just because we're in it next season. We didn't really want to be. We wanted to be in the Champions League, but it's where we've ended. And you are in the Champions League. But in terms of the Conference League, what was the experience like? I assume you're going to tell me it was great because you won it, or was it great before that anyway?
You know, before we were in the Conference League, when the tournament was just announced, we actually on the show had talked about how great that tournament was for Greek football in general, because that was a competition we all felt that Greek teams should be competing at a high level in quarterfinals, semifinals. And PAOK, who was the Greek team that was usually in the Conference League, they went to quarterfinals every other year, multiple times. So that proved to us that this was a tournament that Greek teams could compete in. And then last year, when we got knocked down from Europa League to Conference League, we won the whole thing. I mean, that just really further supported what we were saying about the tournament. It's a great tournament, and I do believe it's a great tournament for Forest to be in, to kind of dip the toes back into European competition after so long. And I really think it's a great opportunity for you guys to just kind of like inch your way back into these European competitions, because I think the right steps will be taken for you. And it wouldn't surprise me to see Forest in European competition in the coming seasons as well.
You mentioned that you've had a great season, and historically Olympiacos dominate the Greek league. I think you had a lean year or a lean couple of years. I assume Evangelos Marinakis, he's very popular in Nottingham and has been for a few years now. Is he universally loved by you guys now you're winning everything, or does that depend on results like every other club? I just wonder, how is he perceived as an owner in Greece?
He's definitely, people love him more than they hate him. Now, I will say this, there's a little bit of a culture difference with respect to winning. And this is something that I know he's trying to bring more at Forest, this idea that you have to win and winning is the only acceptable result. Well, that's been in Olympiacos DNA. That's been what we believe for decades, for a century. And it is unacceptable to lose at Olympiacos, period. It's unacceptable to lose anything. So when you go 2 seasons without winning a title, which is what happened, it gets really bad. We have an era at Olympiacos that we called, in Greek, it's pronounced the Petrina Chronia, the stone years, as we like to translate it, where we didn't win the title for over 3 years. That was the last time Olympiacos went over 3 years without winning the title. This was, over 50 years ago. So we almost hit that with the bad run of form we had as a club. So this is the mentality that has been had at Olympiacos. It's unacceptable to go more than a year or so without winning. So it's a bit of a little cultural difference, but we've rebounded in the most fantastic of ways. I mean, from what we experienced with Pedro Martins when he left in that last season of just awful football, and then a season and a half of just what was utter chaos at the club, to now rebound, and now the sky is the limit for this club, versus before it was, we always used to hang around top of Greece, but kind of struggle in certain areas of European football. Now we believe anything's possible.
So where does the Forest situation fit into that in the minds of Olympiacos fans? Because when you bought us, we were the kind of this ailing giant of 40 years ago in Europe. Now we're back in the Premier League, and Evangelos Marinakis is here quite a lot more than he has been. Forest takes a lot of his attention and the regime's attention, and as such we've brought in Edu and a few other people, but it's very front and center for him, much more than it probably was a couple of years ago. How do Olympiacos fans view that and view the connection to our club?
So he actually does a very good job of attending matches for both clubs. I mean, he's at almost every match for both clubs, which is insane to me. He'll be at Forest one day, and then he's in Greece for Olympiacos the next. I don't think he sleeps. When we had the interview with the vice president, he told us he doesn't think Mr. Marinakis sleeps, and I believe it. But if you look at the relationship between Forest and Olympiacos, it's not just like one defined thing, right? It's evolved. It's very fluid. Before when he first bought, you guys were in championship, we would loan you some of our maybe poorer assets or less performing assets. Then when you first got promoted to the Premier League, they were coming our way. Now I think they have the right idea with how it comes to the relationship between not just Olympiacos and Forest, but now the network, Rio Ave, the Sao Paulo Academy, which is the group of scouts and the resources that can be shared for information. That is, I think, where we're at now between the two clubs, and that's the most important piece. This is, of course, the leveraging of financial resources. You saw it with David Carmo last season. He was never coming to Forest right away. He was always something that was coming to Olympiacos, but you will benefit from him because he's most likely coming back to Forest to play, and he's a very, very good asset with high potential for you. And I think we'll see that with more in the future. The 3 Brazilian players you signed for Botafogo, they'll probably go on loan. One or two of them to Rio Ave, maybe one comes to Olympiacos, who knows? But this is now the relationship. It's like the Red Bull system. You have all these different clubs in different leagues. Obviously, Forest is in the best league in the world, the Premier League. So you have a lot of things to offer players, whether they're young talents just coming out of an academy somewhere, rising stars. You have a lot to offer them. Olympiacos is in Champions League. You have Forest in the Premier League. One day maybe they'll return to the Champions League. You have a lot to offer different players, and this is the new relationship in the Marinakis football group. So many different things to offer for so many different players in different phases of their careers, and I think that's the most important thing for the futures going forward.
Yeah, I mean, do you think it's been historically successful in the sense of, you mentioned some of the players you sent our way. Maybe Cafu was a success to a decent degree. Probably others weren't. We've sent over to you guys. I think João Carvalho ended up there for a while. Julian Biancon has gone there, and then I'll ask you about Carmo and Stamenic in particular. But historically, has it been? How would you grade it so far?
I would say historically, the transactions of the players between the clubs has not been so good. I know in the past we sent you guys like Mohamed Drager, I believe. I believe we sent Karim Anzarifard. We sent you Bukhalakis while you were in the championship at one point. So it hasn't turned out very well. But you guys, I think Cafu, you had mentioned the locker room legend, I've been told. But Julian Biancon is probably the best signing from Forest that we've ever received. I don't count David Carmo because he was purchased with the sole purpose of sending to us on loan this season, so I don't really count him. But Julian Biancon has been, he was made for Olympiacos. So in that respect, when you only have like one hit on each side in the last few years, it's probably not good. But I think the way things are being done now, like I said, with the scouting, identifying targets, this guy could be good for Forest. This one could be good for Olympiacos with different carrots thrown in. That's probably the better way to do it.
I think so. I'm quite optimistic. And like I say, the Brazilian players, as we record this on Monday, we haven't signed them. We don't know where they'll end up. Maybe one goes on loan or two. I'm not sure, but it could bear some fruit, hopefully. You mentioned Carmo and Stamenic there. They were the two we sent on loan to you guys last summer. Carmo is probably the most interesting one because he came from Porto and had good pedigree, and it looked like he could have played for us last season just gone, but he went to you guys. I looked at his stats. He didn't start every game. He started a lot, but he wasn't like a nailed 90-minute man. So how would you sum up how it went for him last season?
So there's a couple of things that impacted David Carmo. So first and foremost is the Italian that we signed, the U23 Italian captain from the relegated Salernitana. He was a big surprise for all of us. He was signed last summer for, I believe it was 3 million, and we didn't have big expectations. He was signed as a rotation left-footed center back to back up David Carmo, but then during the course of the season, he just improved immensely, and his defensive positioning and awareness was just astounding for someone of his age. So that was just a big surprise. And then David Carmo was big for us in some European fixtures, like Braga comes to mind, some of the derbies as well. But Carmo's issue was more like his focus. He is one of the most talented. If you took all of our center backs, including our captain, Panos Retsos, and lined them all up, David Carmo probably has, him and Retsos are the highest ceiling in terms of potential. He has more potential going forward than I believe Lorenzo Pirola will have. But it's all here with him. He focus. There are games where he's not the fastest center back, but there are games you could see him clearly get sucked in, maybe get a little lazy on coverage, and then he can get burned by it. You have a pretty agile forward, and he's not thinking, or he doesn't have his space. He doesn't have the right positioning body wise. He'll get beaten. And we saw that a few times, especially against teams that are not, mid or low table, not great teams in Greece. So that's really where your issue is with David Carmo. But his possession, his footwork, his ability with the ball at his feet is perfect for the Premier League. He was one of the reasons we would make a substitute at the center back sometimes with David Carmo coming in, because we needed better ball movement on the offense. And for Forest, which is so great, and on the counter, needing those long balls to go out to your wingers this season, with how Nuno plays, David Carmo did that for us, and his long balls are just pinpoint. They're beautiful. So he's a great player, great potential. And I think when if he's playing in the best league in the world, I would hope that his focus would be a little bit more on point. But there's a reason why he was a record signing for Porto. There is a player there. He is absolutely fantastic on his day. And in the air, too. Oh, my goodness. Conference League, even this season, in the air, he's unbeatable. So there's a great player there. It's just a question of focus. And then the rise of Lorenzo Pirola, which shocked all of us in a way, that also had something to do with his reduced minutes.
It's interesting because he sounds like, we know he's talented, and you saw that with Porto and everything you've said there. His problem at Forest is probably Murillo and Milenkovic were like
Correct.
one of the best pairings in the whole league. And I don't know if we'll play a back three next season. We've also got Morato, who I wouldn't be surprised if Morato ended up at Olympiacos next season, by the way. Possibly Jaya Cunha and a few others. We've got a long list of centre-backs. Do you not see a scenario at all where Carmo's back with you guys next season then? Is that probably not going to happen?
I don't. From the individuals we've spoken to, I have not seen anything positive. Nothing we've read, nothing we've seen, nothing we've heard has been positive for his return. It was always one of those things this season. Anytime somebody would speak or any of the insiders would come out, was always, we'll see, we'll see, we'll see. And there's never been something really positive, even from the camp of David Carmo. Nobody. We'll see. And it's always had a little bit more of a negative connotation. So I don't think we'll see him back at Olympiacos, even for Champions League.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because I don't know, it's difficult for Forest. They need a really good backup for Murillo and Milenkovic, but convincing someone to sit on the bench for potentially 35 Premier League games is interesting. We do need a better squad. I want to just ask Ari about Marko Stamenic in 1 second, but just before that, a word for Trent Navigation and a reminder, it's this Saturday, 5 o'clock kickoff. It's on TV, so you can watch it at the Trent Navigation. Huge screens outdoors, it says, which is true. So you can enjoy that there and get your dinner there as well from the pizza kitchen or the pub indoors. Right, Marko Stamenic. I looked up on him, and I haven't seen him play at all, to be honest, but he hasn't featured very much. A friend of the show is Jason Pine, who's a New Zealand commentator who has such high hopes for him. Perhaps is he not at the level, or is he showing promise?
I had high hopes for Stamenic too. When I do the scouting reports for our channel, and when I did the scouting reports, he was one that I thought, this guy, his aggression level in Serbia, he came very highly rated too. I mean, we spoke to Inbom Huang at Red Star, who is a former Olympiacos player, who loved him and said he's a great kid. He needed some time at Red Star to kind of really show what he was capable of. But after a few months, he became the starter next to Inbom Huang, who's now at Feyenoord. But I think part of it has to do with Mendilibar's system. It was just a bad fit in the end because Stamenic, when he's able to get into an advanced position with the ball at his feet, you really see, oh man, this guy can cut the lines. He can move the ball around very well. But at Olympiacos, under the system of Jose Luis Mendilibar, the first and foremost tactic, the first strategy for offense and defense is based on the press. We get our most opportunities when we win the ball off the press and then create opportunities there. Everything is about that. And for him, playing in a central midfield role, as he did with Olympiacos, the midfield probably has the most important role in that pressing scheme, because the center mids have to employ what we call the press trap, because our number 9 and then the 10 that's behind him are pressing usually the center backs or the individuals in the center, with the whole purpose of the wingers applying pressure to force the ball central, and then the center mids have to clean that up. He was terrible at anticipating anything that came through the central. He's very aggressive, probably better in that 10 role, but Chiquinho was by far our best asset there. He was never going to play much over him. And then our now 18-year-old prodigy, Carlos Kostoulas, was just an animal. I mean, at 18 years old, bullying 30-year-old veteran players. So he was never going to play in the front line. And then in the center mid, he just didn't have the attributes that we needed to really make our primary mode of attack work, which was the press. And that therein lies the problem. I still believe he's a great player. I just think he's a bad fit for our system. At Forest, if he's able to be in a role where he can get more advanced with the ball at his feet, or be allowed to be more aggressive without having so much worry about the organizational part, I think he will have value for Forest. The problem was the system at Olympiacos, and I'm pretty convinced on that. I think he's a great player, but it just didn't work.
Yeah, it's interesting listening to you. I mean, if you watch Forest play, central midfielders have to be very disciplined defensively. We're not a high press team, but we create very narrow lines that are very hard to play through. So you've got to be switched on defensively, which makes me probably think maybe he's not going to make it at Forest. Maybe he goes on loan or he's sold, which would be, maybe a shame, I guess. I don't know.
One caveat, at least, Red Star didn't press very high either, and they were a little bit more mid block, deeper block in that respect, and he did look better there. So maybe that's a silver lining, but we would have to wait and see. He would have to have a preseason with Nuno for them to decide whether or not he's capable.
The other thing I was listening to what you're saying, and again, for people who are listening, we're recording this on Monday afternoon, and this is going to come out probably Thursday or Friday. Cuiabano, one of his big assets that was listed, he's a pressing machine, so maybe he would possibly end up at Olympiacos and really fit that system. Just as a real side note, because again, this could come out in a few days. You mentioned one of the young lads there. There's a couple that are supposed to be big superstars. Kostoulas, is he the one that's linked with Brighton?
Yes, we're expecting some big news about that with respect to Brighton. We had been given some information that they won't meet the 40 million euro that we were expecting, but they're going to make an offer. Wednesday will be the big day. So tomorrow, at the time of recording, there'll be some news, hopefully, with respect to Kostoulas. Or sorry, in 2 days from now. Today's Monday. I apologize.
Why is he not going to Forest? I don't know. We can't. I don't know the answer. Have you got any insight onto that?
So the best answer I have for that is, or the way it was explained to me, is that in England, with PSR rules with respect now to multi-club ownership, the multi-club ownership purchasing within those clubs there has to be like a value base for that. So Forest can't just decide, oh, we want Kostoulas for 50 million to feed 50 million to Olympiacos, if that makes sense. There has to be like a value established. So I think he could, if, let's say Brighton brings the offer 38, 39, 40 million, whatever it is, and establishes that value. Forest then could say, okay, we want him for 40 million or what have you. I'm sure Marinakis would love to keep Kostoulas in the family, if that makes sense. I know he definitely wants to keep him at Olympiacos this season. There's no rush to sell him. If we're not getting 40 million, 45 million plus 20% sell on, they're not giving him, because we're in no rush to. But I would imagine that Mr. Marinakis probably wants to keep Kostoulas in the family if he can. But, the players being targeted by every top club in Europe, I mean, everybody. We're expecting Arsenal and Chelsea to get involved in the bidding war for Kostoulas as well. There was a rumor about Real Madrid, which we could never confirm, but there was a rumor about that as well. Everybody wants Kostoulas right now. He's one of the hottest prospects in Europe.
Yeah, I suppose the other thing for us is missing out on Champions League. We probably can't drop 40 million on one player now, I guess. I'm not sure about that. So that might be a PSR issue. How do you feel about having to sell top talent when, you've spoken rightly about ambition, believing you can compete at the top table, and then clubs are coming in and taking, generational talents that you've produced? Is that annoying, or is it a feeling it's actually there is a food chain and we're still on it?
If with context to the situation at Olympiacos, we would probably be more annoyed if we were selling more talent, but this is really the first time we have genuine, amazing talent out of the academy that's getting this attention. It's not just one player. We have two players that are being sought by so many clubs. So it's kind of a novelty for us at Olympiacos. And I think if it weren't so exciting that we're finally producing our own talent and the academy's churning out some great players, maybe we would be more negative if it was happening more often. But most of us, the reasonable fans, as I like to say, we understand that Greece is not a top 5 league. Greece is outside. It's getting much better than it was a few years ago, and we're making strides. The teams are getting better, and Olympiacos especially. But the nature of it is our clubs, even Olympiacos, doesn't make as much in revenue as the worst club in England does. Even championship sides will make more in revenues than Olympiacos can in many cases. So we understand that if we're going to want to compete and bring better players and spend more money, we have to sell. That's just the nature of it. So it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter how much Champions League revenue we bring in, which we're going to make at least 30 million this year. But still, if we want to compete, if you want to bring better and better players, this is the nature. This is the business. The Portuguese clubs do it all the time. And it's about time the Greek clubs rose to that and figured that out for themselves.
So has money been pumped into your academy? Because I know, in recent years, it certainly has into our academy. So that's happened for you guys as well.
Oh, lots of money, personnel. I mean, when Mr. Marinakis first took over, he dumped 100 million euros over the course of a few years. And I believe half of it went into upgrading the academy, the facilities. Now we have we have really great individuals involved with the academy. Jose Anigo, in particular, who runs the academy, is a genius, former Marseille guy as well. And he's just a genius. The players he can find, the scouts that are involved in finding kids from all over the place. And then, of course, the links with Forest. We brought in 2 players that were supposed to be part of Forest's academy project this past summer, but couldn't get work permits. So they just came to Olympiacos instead. So I'm talking about Yusuf Tai and Lamine Silla, the Nigerian from Taiwo's brother's academy. He has an academy in Nigeria, so he brought Yusuf Tai to us, and then Lamine Silla is a Gambian international. So all of these great things that go into the academy, it's all a product of millions, tens of millions of euros of investment that's finally producing for us.
The other thing I should ask you, probably the last thing about Olympiacos, is that our listeners will obviously be well aware of the football side of it, but can you explain to us, for those who don't know, Olympiacos is like this multi-sport behemoth in the city with, is it basketball and handball
Everything.
as well?
Everything: handball, water polo, swimming, boxing, kickboxing, ping pong. Olympiacos is the most successful multi-sport club in the world. It was Barcelona up until about a year and a half ago, and then we won more titles. So Olympiacos, all the teams in Greece, they're not just football teams. They have everything: basketball. Even if it's not owned by the same owner, they all have different sports underneath them. And Olympiacos is no different. Like I mentioned before, of course, basketball is big. Greece is a massive basketball country. Water polo, we've always been very competitive in, both men and women. So the very, very big multi-sport clubs, over 300 titles combined across sports. And finally we're going to have a legitimate women's football team, which is starting next season as well. So it's everything. Olympiacos is not. Everyone always asks me about football with respect to Olympiacos, and they ask me what it means to everybody. And the fact of the matter is, Olympiacos is not just football. It's not just one thing or the other. Olympiacos is it's something a lot closer to everybody. It's not just a way of life. It's community. It's a much bigger symbol than any one sport. And that's really the best way I can explain what Olympiacos is in that regard. It's beyond sports, beyond anything else. It's community.
I guess one of the sports probably has primacy. Is it football? The basketball seems
Of
like it's
course.
massive. Yeah.
Of course. Football. So basketball is actually not under Marinakis' ownership. It's under a different ownership. It's the Angelopoulos brothers, but it's still part of that Olympiacos family. You see Marinakis at the games. You see our football players this season going to basketball games, basketball players coming, and you'll see, and that's across all sports, the amateur sports, they come to the football games, basketball games. But yes, the primary focus, most of the money gets spent on football, 100%.
Excellent. Good. Interesting and educational. I've got a couple more questions for Ari away from this in one moment. But just for that, a word of thanks for Nottingham Window Company. If you're looking for new windows, doors, they are the people for you. You could probably get them in a nice Greek style, opening out onto a veranda in the East Midlands. But do check out the link in the description if you're looking forward to making a big purchase this summer. And thanks as ever for their backing. Now, I mentioned at the top of the show, I went on Ari's podcast a few weeks ago and very much enjoyed it. And he threw me a few curveballs at the end with some random questions that I think I might nick. And I'm probably going to roll this out this summer, this season for all our opposition fans. So I think I remembered my answers. I'm going to throw 3 of the questions I recall back at Ari and see what his answers are. So I think I remember the first one I'm pretty sure you asked me was favorite food or favorite meal. Was that right?
It was favorite food. That's right.
Right. What's yours?
So my favorite food is it's lamb. It's called gleftiko. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's the lamb, and then you have like the way my mother makes it. You know, that she puts like the lamb shank, and it's in the foil, and then there's potatoes underneath. She puts a little bit of rice, tomato. Oh, it's one of my favorite dishes to eat. Always around Easter time it comes out. God, I love it.
Yeah, Greek food is sensational. I really love it. I mean, we're prying into your personal life a little bit here. You're in the States. You've got an American accent,
Yes.
but you a huge Greek family. So I guess Greece sounds like it's still a big part of family life for you, even if you're exiled, for want of a better word, in the States.
It is it's funny. I get asked about connection because I do work with a Greek American philanthropic organization as well. And I get asked about that connection all the time. Family is super important, but really what connects me and a lot of us Greek Americans is having something to hold on to that's in Greece, whether it's like the Greek national team, football, sports, Olympiacos especially. When you're away from the country, you need something to hold on to that's Greek to make you feel like you're connected. And that's so I have, of course, my family, which is all Greek, and we, abide by Greek Orthodox ideals and philotimo and all of those other things. But Olympiacos is like my tie to Greece, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. Lovely stuff. And the next one you asked me, I think, was TV show. And I'm pretty sure I stand by it if I didn't say it. I'm pretty sure I said Band of Brothers, which I'll watch
You did.
most years, at least all the way through once, or every few years, certainly. So I'll throw it back at you.
God, that one I know is very difficult because I could never come up with my own answer. But my favorite, I'll put it my favorite series of movies. My favorite series of movies with my family, this includes my brother and my cousins, was the Rush Hour series with Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. We could recite every line of all 3 of those movies. So that series I probably rewatched more than any other series. So that's, if I had to on the spot pick one, that's probably what I'd go with for movies. As far as shows are concerned, that's tough. I don't know if I could pick. I pick a show. I've watched way too many, and I've loved too many to pick just one. Maybe Dragon Ball Z from when I was younger. I watched that a lot, but can't think of anything else.
Another interesting thing about Igor Jesus, the striker from Botafogo, is his celebration is a Dragon Ball Z celebration or something. I don't understand exactly. My son, he watches it, but I don't watch it. So yeah, there could be another Olympiacos connection there potentially. I wrote down some answers for that, and I think I said Jurassic Park, and I scrolled through the generic because it stuck with me movie lists of greatest ever movies, and I also noted down the Lord of the Rings series. The Usual Suspects, mostly for the ending. And I did forget this when I was talking to you. There's a film, and I was thinking of films you can watch over and over again. And if they're just on, you'll watch them. And The Hunt for Red October was the one that stuck with me.
Have
you seen that?
Movie. Yes, of course.
Yes.
It's a great movie. Great movie.
So there you go. I'll recommend people to watch that, certainly. And that feels like an interesting note to end on, completely away from football, certainly. Right. Do check out Ari's podcast. In fact, tell us more. Give us a plug if people want to learn more about Olympiacos and what's going on.
Yeah, sure. You can follow us. We're on every social media platform. We do a lot of giveaways on Instagram. You can follow us here. I have the handle. It's Thrylos7 International, Thrylos7 INTL specifically. We do a lot of great giveaways on Instagram. We have a YouTube channel. Everything's in English. We have a fair amount of overlap with Forest. So if you want to make sure you have some content for that, you can see that because there's a lot that goes on between the two clubs, and you can follow us there. Any questions, you can reach out to us on socials. My personal is Aristides06. So you can reach out to me personally there if you have any questions, but there's a lot of great stuff. Vlogs, scouting reports. I mean, you name it, we do it. If you like lions too, we love lions. So there's plenty of lions on our pages.
English people aren't going to be able to spell Aristides06. You might have to spell that one out for us.
So it's ARISTIDIS 06. I can even send it to you on X, so if you can put it in the description.
I will. Drop it in. Right. If you've enjoyed this, do us a favor, hit like, hit subscribe. Do consider membership or Patreon if you're a member or a patron. You'll get early access to this and any other pre-recorded interview, or give us a lovely 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. If I stick to my plan of when all the podcasts are going to come out, then this is either coming out on Friday and it's last podcast of the week at Barring Breaking News, or it's on Thursday, and tomorrow's podcast will be on Dale Taylor, who's one of our young strikers who had a very good season out on loan and might be in the squad more this season around the Conference League. So do check that out, and do us a favor and hit like on this video as I relentlessly plug that, and subscribe. Ari, thank you very much. I really enjoyed that, and I hope you did too. You have to say yes to that. Good. It would be incredibly awkward if you said no, but yeah. Really
you got me with the questions at the end. I wasn't expecting the questions to come back at me.
No, it was good. Like I say, we have these opposition correspondents for each Premier League team, and they've been on for a couple of years now, and it'd be good to know a bit more about them. So that's a little framework into people's lives. So I'm going to nick it off you shamelessly, I think.
If I contributed anything, it's an honor. So I'm happy to say I have contributed something to you.
Excellent. There's nothing original on this podcast. It's all adapted from better ideas that people have had. So that's my philosophy on life. Right. Have a good day, everyone. Join us either tomorrow or Monday. But if we don't see you then, we shall see you soon.